You wake up in a dark room. As your consciousness swims towards the surface, you hear a familiar feminine voice calling your name, telling you you have to save the world. This is a brief synopsis of the beginning of a critically acclaimed 10 out of 10 game, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Part of the reason this game was so incredible is because of its incredibly deep and detailed story. Today, we're going to dissect the job of the person who had to make that story. We're going to look at how story design can affect childhood obesity. We're going to look at what you need to get into that career, and we are going to look at The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild's main story quest and break it down. I love stories, and I break down a lot of these stories to add to my own because I've made a lot. And story design is an incredibly powerful tool that you can use to convey a point or just to tell a story. And I am really looking forward to learning more about this career path. Have you ever heard the acronym AVG? Probably not in this context. It stands for active video game, which means a video game you have to be active to control. A couple of examples are Pokemon Go, most Wii games, and pretty much every VR game. And people don't play these that much because they're tiring. But if the game has a good story, they will play it to completion. And because of that, a group of researchers at JMIR Serious Games did an experiment in which they made 4 games, and they found out that the science fiction AVG game was the one that made kids want to exercise more. And so now we've seen how it can affect childhood obesity, and now we're going to look at what you need to get into the career field. And in order to find that out, we've looked at a job posting by award-winning game studios, Ludia. They have games on Android, Apple, and Facebook. The job description summed up is you have to control all of the text, meaning when it appears, when it disappears, what it says, and even just the story behind the game. And even more importantly, you have to work with the platform's strength. Example is a phone has a small screen, but a computer you can't tilt. But a phone you can tilt, and a computer has a big screen. And so you have to be able to work with those strengths. A couple of the job requirements are that you have to have 4 years of experience, a creative writing and game design degree, and good English writing skills. Those all make sense. So now let's dive deeper and look at an award-winning game's main storyline. You start off in a plateau, and this plateau is amazing because it's the tutorial for this game. But you don't have to sit through a boring tutorial like a lot of other games. You get to learn as you go. And a lot of other games don't do that. But even more amazing is when you leave the plateau, you have to find an old lady and you find out that this story isn't one story. It's not about you hacking and slashing through monsters. It's about 2. It's about you hacking and slashing through monsters and something tragic that happened 100 years prior. And because of that, it's incredible, but even more so, because you don't have to learn any of this. You can just go to the final boss and not care about any of this, and the story wraps around you no matter what you do, instead of the other way around, you having to go with the story. And that's why that game is so incredible, because no matter what you do, the story will follow you. Today, we've seen that story design is often the only reason people finish games, unfortunately. But because of that, people love stories. We've seen that science fiction is one of the best genres for active video games. We've seen that what you need to get into the field and we've dissected an award-winning game. So, what's even more incredible to me than all of this is that I've only talked about the narrative design, but even in the story parts of game design, there is so much more. And that is why I am incredibly excited to learn more about this career path. Thank you, and have a great day. And